Hello and welcome for the first time in a while to the JSA studio. I am your host, as always, Nathan, and today I'm coming at you with my first video in my annual Big Ten preview series, starting with Michigan at the quarterback position. Before we get into the video itself, I am going to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help out the channel if you did. And now with the intro done and out of the way, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to get started by starting with Mikey Keene, the transfer quarterback from Fresno State. And the first thing that I want to say here is the film that I watched for my overall breakdown, because we're only going to break down his game versus Michigan because that was the best team he played. You did kind of get an all-encompassing Mikey Keene experience in that game. So we're only going to break down the film for the opening game last year, Fresno State versus Michigan, but these are all the games that I watched of him for this breakdown. Versus Michigan, versus New Mexico State, versus Washington State, versus Nevada, versus Hawaii, versus Colorado State, and versus UCLA. General takeaways from the film, okay? He does well on designed deep shots, usually off of hard play action or plays where they're just dialing up a shot. It's 2nd and 2 or it's 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 1 or something. And they're going to take a shot because they think they can get the first down on 3rd down, okay? He does well on quick one-read passes. When he's asked to make multiple reads, that's when he starts to struggle a little bit more. It's almost like, oh, look at the one guy. Is he going to jump to this side or that side, throw it to the opposite side? Does well in those types of situations. Simple, quick reads, and he can move around a little bit. He's not a statue. He's a pretty solid athlete. I would not quantify him as a good athlete. He's not someone you're going to design runs for, but he is a solid enough athlete. Also, just to go back here, he doesn't particularly struggle on plays where he's asked to read more than one read, but he certainly doesn't excel either. You're not really going to see him make misreads in the Michigan game because everything was very, very simplified in that game for him because they were going up against a superior team talent-wise. So they knew they probably weren't going to have a lot of time to run multi-read sort of plays. There is a couple instances where because he extended the play, he is allowed to progress, and Michigan's defense and play calling and scheming early on in the season was not very good. And they also were trying out a bunch of different players at positions that they shouldn't be playing, or just players that shouldn't be playing as well. So you're going to see a couple of times in the film that I break down where he's going to go through the reads, and he's okay. Like he's still doing his job, but he's probably more of a one read quick, play action pass or deep shot kind of a quarterback rather than someone who is going to be able to sit back there, go through multiple reads like a Jake Rudock would do back in 2015. Obviously very different offense, but it's just an example. Okay, so now moving on a little bit here to some of the stuff that he could improve on, okay? For someone who has played 1,200 snaps, I believe he is a 6th-year player. He might be a 5th-year player. I'm not positive. But I believe he's a 6th-year player. For someone who has played a lot of football, his technique is not very good. And that's the majority of the problems stem from with him from the film. Okay, I talk about here, I put on the screen, intermediate passes are his kryptonite. That is true because he really struggles under pressure. When you get pressure on him, he really struggles there. Now, he can run around and escape, and once he gets outside of the pocket or makes the first guy miss, he's actually pretty good in those kinds of situations. But situations where he either doesn't escape or can't escape and he's feeling the pressure, not ideal. And that is when your technique needs to take over. Those types of situations where you're under pressure, the defense kept their rush lanes or they brought an extra rusher that came free or whatever. That's where your technique needs to take over so you can keep your feet under you and deliver a ball. And that breaks down quite a bit on film. And specifically when you do that and you target the intermediate, i.e. between 10 and 20 yards, so anything before 10 yards is considered a short pass, anything over 20 is considered a deep pass, okay? So 10 to 20 yards is the intermediate range, and that is where a lot of his mistakes happen. That is where a lot of the interceptions and bad ball placement ends up being. Now, if he were a younger player, I would say, okay, that probably could get fixed. There's a possibility that that could all get fixed. Maybe he trusts the offensive line more now. Maybe he trusts the wide receivers to get open more because they're a higher caliber of athlete. These are all things that could make his job easier, that would allow him to focus more on keeping his technique solid and delivering catchable balls, okay? But I'm just telling you what I saw on film. This isn't an indication of who Mikey Keene could be. It's an indication of what he was last year. And last year, he was a mixed bag. I mean, he really was. In 2024, he threw just shy of 2,900 yards. He threw for 7.4 yards per attempt, 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Okay, what does that mean? What in actuality here? Okay, 7.4 yards per is right where it needs to be. Okay, that's passable. It's not average. Average is below that. But generally speaking, 7 to 7.5 is where you want your quarterback to go in terms of yards per catch. So that's good enough. He had 393 attempts, which was down from the previous year. However, his completion percentage was also up, 70.5% completion percentage. However, they also ran a lot of screen passes, okay? So that completion percentage is not necessarily an indication of accuracy. And you need to understand that, especially with college players, where they run a lot of screens in college. So the completion percentage numbers are, in fact, inflated. Okay, 18 touchdowns is down from 2023, from 24. That's a relatively significant drop-off. I do believe the team as a unit got worse as well around him. Okay, so it's not all on him. I think the wide receivers were worse. The offensive line was definitely worse. But there is still a dip in production in just about every single category. The real thing here in his 3 years of, playing a lot, his 2021 season, he had 272 attempts. 2023, he had 422. 2024, he had 393 pass attempts. So he's thrown the ball quite a bit. But interceptions and turnovers in general, have been a constant. He had 6 interceptions in 2021, 10 interceptions in 2023, 11 interceptions in 2024. Had he gotten the same amount of attempts in 2021, probably ends up right around that 10 to 11 interceptions mark as well. However, interceptions themselves are not necessarily the whole story. For those unaware, Pro Football Focus, which also does a lot of work for college football, they have a stat called TWP, or turnover worthy plays. And specifically, they're for the quarterback, it's a quarterback stat, and And specifically, they're talking about interceptions. That's basically what it means. Meaning, if I throw the ball to the defensive back, but he drops it, that is still quantified as a turnover-worthy play. However, if I throw the ball, the wide receiver has it slip right through his hands, it goes off his helmet, and then a linebacker catches it, that's not my fault. So even though that's an interception, it isn't a turnover-worthy play. Generally speaking, it's about 60% of turnover-worthy plays are going to actually be turnovers, okay? And Mikey Keene does fit into that category. It's a little bit higher in terms of he was probably a little bit more unlucky than the average person. He had 15 turnover-worthy plays and 11 actual interceptions. That was in 2024. In 2023, he had 10 interceptions on 11 turnover-worthy plays. So it was like he was being punished for every mistake that he made. His turnover-worthy play percentage, which is the amount of turnover-worthy plays you have divided by the amount of snaps you play, is right around 3%, which is just about average for the quarterback position. In fact, he was 3.3%, and to put that in perspective, just to give you an understanding of what I'm saying, is that this is about, pretty good, actually. It's above average to maybe leaning on good. Cam Ward, the Heisman winner, had a 3.3% turnover-worthy play, the exact same as Mikey Keene. So you can look at, 10 interceptions 2 years ago, 11 interceptions last year, but that's not necessarily the whole story, okay? He is a little bit unlucky, but it is 2 years of him being unlucky, so he might just be an unlucky player. All right, with the primer all set and done now, let's go ahead and break down Mikey Keene's film. So to start things off here, I'm pretty sure this is the first drive of the game for Fresno State here. We're going to have a pretty simple route concept here. Number 18 right here, he's going to run a little dig route coming in on the field. And then he has two wide receivers out over here that you can't see. One is just going to be running a go route. The other is going to be running a slant on an in-breaking route. And number 86, the tight end here, is going to be running a sort of drag crossing route across the field. Simple mesh concept as utilized in West Coast schemes a whole lot. Before we get into that, I am going to break this down here. Now, he's already snapped the ball just because that's where it had to start. Before that, they were showing something different. Pre-snap here, there are some pretty obvious indicators of what's going on. Jayshon Barham right here in the middle is just lined up over the center. So they're sending extra. That's the first thing you probably notice, which means I'm going to have room here on my two quick passes to get them in there. Now, normally, if he backs out, this linebacker, Ernest Hausman, can then go jump the other one, and then he might be a little bit screwed, but he would have time potentially to hit the dig on the backside as well. So it's counters on counters on counters on counters, okay? So that's the linebacker first and second level. What about the third level? Pretty obvious here. Will Johnson, he's looking at the play, and this is pretty obviously zone. I think this is George Johnson, is that his name? Number 28, I don't remember. He's also looking in here. Pretty obviously a zone coverage here on the blitz, which typically what you do when you do blitz, you do look at it. So let's go ahead, start the play, let it run here for a second. You see a wide receiver number 4 out here. He's breaking in here now. Go ahead, start it again. First thing you notice is a pretty good pocket here. So he's got time. It's a quick concept. And then obviously you can see here, post-snap, obviously zone coverage. He's passing him off. Zone coverage there. Zone coverage there. He's passing him off as well. Zone coverage. This is the hole right here. I'll clear the screen there. This is the hole that he's going to be throwing it into. And this is the correct read. This is the right decision. Now, if we back it up again here, oh, I got to do this first. If we back it up again here, and we watch him, his eyes right here, we watch him, he's just staring this down right away. Now, he's going to make the throw quick. Doesn't particularly matter that he's staring it down. We also are going to see here that the ball is going to end up being just a little bit high. Not the end of the world. The wide receiver absolutely should catch this as opposed to letting it slip through his hands. And then Zeke Berry here is going to pick it off. This is kind of what I was talking about with him being a little bit unlucky. He does make the correct quick read. He knows what the coverage is going to be, makes the right decision, throws it a little bit high, which, you know, is a negative. The wide receiver got both hands on it, probably should have came down with it anyway, but it ends up being an interception because the wide receiver couldn't make the play. Moving on to play number 2 here. Once again, we're going to see another mesh concept. You got the tight end here at the top of the screen. He's going to run a little drag route right at the line to gain. Here you got number 11, slot wide receiver. He is also going to be running a little shallow crosser here. And then you have the wide receiver up here at the top of the screen, the Z. He is going to come in and run one of these. Now, unlike on the previous encounter where the wide receiver over here, who isn't really involved in the mesh, so to speak, was running a go route on the previous play, here he's running a speed out. Just a quick little out designed to get to the first down. It is 3rd and 4. You can see the situation here. And pre-snap, this looks like zone coverage again. At least, or potentially some sort of combo coverage, as we'll see up here. You've got Hill. He's just staring at the wide receiver. I think this is Johnson. Again, George Johnson. He is kind of looking at the quarterback. He's going to kind of look at him. Then you have Zeke Berry here in the slot. He's looking at the quarterback. And Will Johnson, he's also looking at the quarterback. So now that we've got the pre-snap reads here going, we're going to let the play run. So first thing you're going to see, 2 players here. Ernest Hausman, he drops off. And Josiah Stewart is going to blitz here. So Michigan is bringing 5, which they very much like to do. And Josiah Stewart is going to be a free rusher. 3rd round draft pick, Isaiah Stewart is going to be a free rusher. And he is going to throw this pass here perfectly. This is a perfect pass. All right. It's up, so if you miss, it's not going to hurt nobody. Hypothetically, he could have put it out more, over here somewhere. Doesn't matter. This is perfect. If he throws it in more, this is a pick 6 for Will Johnson. The ball placement is very good. He deals with the pressure well, and he delivers a pass to get the first down. Now, after the play here, Will Johnson, since he went for the interception, is not going to be able to make the tackle. And then number 18 here is going to go downfield, pick up another couple of yards for the gain. But again, recognizes where he should go post-snap based upon the pre-snap awareness of what is going to happen. He knows he's going to have a free rusher. He knows he has to get the ball out quick, and he gets the ball out quick. Now, moving on here to this next play. Once again, let's go ahead and go through our reads here. First level, defensive line. Oh, okay, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. You can pretty safely bet here that they're going to send at least one of these guys here off of the edge that are standing up. And you can also pretty safely assume that they're probably just going to send both of them. Now, as far as the play itself goes, up here, just a simple 9 route, deep route. Down here, you've got an out and a clear out pattern to try to get the out open. Now, this should be the first read, especially with man coverage reads here on the second/third level here. So Mikey Keene does not throw the out route here. Don't know if you remember this play or not. Mikey Keene does not throw this here. Instead, you can see him even here. He's kind of looking out over here because he knows what he's doing. Because right here, Pollard is in the game, number 24. Backup cornerback that they were trying out to see if he can actually play in game. Mikey Keene recognizes that, and he's going to take the shot play here, going deep up top. Now, let's go ahead and hit play here. By the way, I don't particularly like the design of this play, really at all, because you're keeping 7 people in, and you're only running, or 8 people in, and you're only got 3 people running routes. Don't particularly like that, especially with nothing over this massive middle of the field, because you got play action, and Michigan's linebackers were biting hard on the play action early on in this game, which it's only the second quarter, but maybe you should have noticed that they're biting real hard on the play action. Maybe instead of this being an out route down here, you break it into an in route, see if he can win one-on-one, and then you've got a big gain. Now, that doesn't particularly matter. I just wanted to mention that I did not like the concept on this play here. But he is going to recognize that he has a backup defensive back in the game, and he is going to throw the ball deep. Not particularly good ball placement up top here. It's just not. Now, he makes a hell of a catch here. But if I come out over here, and I have to hit play to back it up a little bit here. If he leads him over here, that's a pretty decent chance at a touchdown. Now, he'd have to, make Pollard miss or break the tackle or something. We're actually going to go back up a little bit more. So better ball placement could be a bigger gain. Now, it's good enough. It is a big gain. Okay, it's an explosive play. But this time, as we're watching it, we're going to watch Mikey Keene, and we're going to see what he looks like as he is throwing the football. Bam, right here. As he's releasing it, what is he doing? He's straight up vertical. He's actually kind of leaning backwards. One foot's off the ground, one's flat-footed, one foot's off the ground. He's got no, rotational torque in his hips. This is pure unadulterated arm. And that's a major reason why, as you can see, he actually drifts backwards as he's throwing it. This is a major reason why I don't think this ball is as accurate as it could have been. He pretty much just chucked it out there, and this is a theme on the tape. He often does fall backwards when throwing the ball, and that is something, especially if you want to have a big play explosive offense, that needs to get fixed. Especially if your pocket looks like this and you've got 7 yards of buffer between you and anybody else. Step into the throw. Or even just wait a second, let him get more separation, then step into the throw and go for the end zone. All right? Is it nitpicking? No, I don't think this is nitpicking. I know some people are going to say that this is nitpicking. I don't think this is nitpicking. I think this is a problem that shows up on tape several more times in this game, and also in every single game I watched after this. His technique is not exceptional. It is actually what I would quantify as subpar. All right, next play here. This play, not particularly going to waste my time with any of the pre-snap reads. It's obviously man coverage. They're going to blitz the nickel back up here. It doesn't matter for this play here. Instead, we have a shot play right down here, a little slant and go that is going to have Will Johnson just absolutely get blown up and decimated on this play here. Let's go ahead and let it run. You can see him at the bottom of the screen breaking in. All right, now let's look at him as he is throwing the ball here. Okay, pretty decent base. Again, he's leaning back slightly, a little bit more so than I'd like him to. But that is nitpicking. Talked about nitpicking earlier. That is a technique nitpick. We go ahead and let it play. He's going to release it. Pretty decent release point up high here. But the reason I'm showing you this play is because he just flat out and straight up misses. This is just a miss on the deep shot here. You can see where he is. Now, maybe you can make the argument he should be out here a little bit on the outside of the hash, or on the outside of the numbers here. Lined up just inside it. Generally speaking, you want to get to the outside of it in this sort of play. But you're going to see where the ball ends up. And this is just a bad throw. Yeah, and you see where the ball ends up relative to the field. Yeah, even if he was where he was supposed to be, which would be like right over here, that'd be a difficult to catch, an adjustment to make. Now, in my opinion, I do think he actually misplayed this, the wide receiver, but the throw is 90% of the problem here on this one. It's just flat out a miss, even with good enough technique. You know, the first play was a hit with bad technique. This play, good technique, and he just misses the throw. He aimed it. I think that's probably what happened. His eyes lit up. He said, oh, I'm going to have the ability to throw a touchdown on a guy who, if he was healthy, probably would have gone in the first round in Will Johnson. But it's not the way it worked out on this play. He just missed it. On to the next play here. Once again, let's go ahead and do our pre-snap reads here. All right. First off, 4 defensive linemen. Okay. Typically, Michigan will put somebody else on the line of scrimmage. Now, he may blitz, he may back off. We don't know. But 4 down linemen here. And again, down is in air quotes. Josiah Stewart is up here at the top. He's in a 2-point stance. So my first thought would be, okay, who is blitzing from depth on this play? Now, your first guess would probably be Jason Barham here. He is a yard closer than everybody else on the second layer. But B, he's also just the guy that Michigan blitzes. Now, he doesn't know that because there's no film of Barham in a Michigan uniform as of the time of Mikey Keene here on this play. Now, 4 defensive linemen here. Let's look here. Zeke Berry looking at me. Will Johnson looking at me. Hill up here at the top looking at me. Zone coverage most likely. That means that my read is going to be between these 2 guys as opposed to these 2 guys down here. These 2 guys down here, that's man coverage. Nope, we're going to go over here to zone coverage up top. These guys are irrelevant on this play. You're going to have 2 little routes here. He's going to run a little 10-yard dig in breaking route. And then the tight end is going to come in here and run a hitch. The idea on this play is to put either Houseman or Barham in a bind. If Barham blitzes, then Ernest Houseman is going to have to either pick the dig or the curl from the tight end here, the hitch from the tight end here, depending upon your verbiage that you want to use. And he's probably going to jump on the dig, meaning that you throw the hitch. He's not going to be in a position to do anything. He might tackle him for a 6 or 7 yard gain, but it doesn't matter. If Barham doesn't blitz, that means Houseman is probably going to get depth, but he's going to stay in the center of the field right here. So Barham, again, linebackers tend to do this. He's going to want to react to what's in front of him. So he's going to jump on the hitch most likely, meaning that there's going to be a window right around here for the dig. That is, if Barham doesn't blitz it. So let's go ahead and start the play here. You're going to actually see Barham creep forward a little bit like he's blitzing. Isn't. So he's backing off. So that now means, Mikey Keene, my read is Jason Barham. Again, I've got my dig that's coming in over here and a hitch that's coming in right here. Ernest Houseman's completely turned his eyes. He's seeing if this is going to be a crossing route and see if he needs to come and get it for Zeke Berry to pass it off. This is just a hitch right here, so that there isn't a need to do that. And Houseman is actually going to then turn around, but he's going to be too late to do what he needs to do. You see Barham, now he's looking here. Ball's being thrown, but he's not looking at the quarterback. He's looking at the tight end here. Barham is going to jump the hitch, and this wide receiver right here is going to pull wide open, throws it on a line. So Houseman, who reacts a little bit late, but even if he reacted perfectly, he's not going to get there in time to do anything about this on this specific play. Right over there, catches the ball. Nice, simple one read. I'm not asking him to go through a progression. Picks up the first down on second down. Keep the chains moving. This is a tremendous rep by Mikey Keene on this play here. So this play right here starts with a little trickery. Keene is going to send this slot receiver on a little motion here into the backfield. He's going to fake the handoff. This is important because they're not going to block Josiah Stewart on this play. Now, Josiah Stewart is going to want to be able to run down over here and potentially make a play if they end up handing this ball off and it's an end around. So he's going to do what he's supposed to do, which he's going to hesitate right about here until he can tell for sure that the quarterback is keeping the ball or it's a handoff. Now, what that is going to allow is for Mikey Keene to have some time on his rollout. Now, as far as the actual play goes, again, he's going to come over here in a little end around and then just kind of hang out down here. Tight end's going to run down the field, do an out-breaking route. Not particularly relevant on this play. This receiver right here, he's just going to run a little drag across the field. He's the second level of this layer concept that they're going to run. The first layer is actually the running back. This is a little tricky, sneaky little play here because normally what you would do is you'd have the tight end run a little cross like this, him going a little bit deeper, and then you'd have the third one up at the top of the screen here. But that's not what they decide to do. They decide that the tight end is just basically not going to be relevant on this play. And they're going to have the running back sneak out and be the first level here on this read. Okay, so I mentioned level 1, which is the running back, level 2, which is the wide receiver over here. Level 3, he's going to run a little comeback route, or outbreaking route right here. It'll actually be down further. It'll be over there. But that is the third level on this play here. So let's go ahead and let it run now. As you see, sends the guy in motion, snaps the ball, fakes it the handoff here. Now, you look at this. This is why you fake the handoff. Where is Mikey Keene? He's right on the dash. Where is Josiah Stewart? He's, maybe a yard or two outside the hash. There are not a whole lot of defensive ends in college football that are going to be able to effectively blitz the angle to get to him before he has the ability to get a pass off. This is a good design in terms of creating space between the quarterback and the pass rush. Now, first thing you notice here, bam, first read, completely taken away, smothered. Now, you can't see it because I don't have access to the All-22 film, but the second layer, that wide receiver on the backside, he's over here right about now, but again, off the screen over here. So he's not in the picture yet. Mikey Keene can't see him, and he don't want to throw it back across your body anyway. So he is going to do exactly what he's supposed to do, which is he's not going to panic. He's going to hold the ball until, Josiah Stewart's right up in his face. And he's going to deliver it on the out-breaking route here, comebacker route to the wide receiver. Good ball placement, excellent diving, sliding kind of catch. So he had to, in order to complete that pass, Keene had to hold on to the ball long enough so that he could actually run his route. He didn't panic. He didn't tuck it and try to beat Josiah Stewart to the edge to pick up a couple of yards. He did exactly what he was supposed to do on this play. That is what we define as maturity. And now, here on our final play, there's a little bit of that maturity is gone here. So, again, pre-snap, Michigan's loaded the line. They got 6 people at the line. Everybody except Ernest Houseman is going to come, but you've only got 5 blockers, so he's going to slide the line to the right, and TJ Guy up here is going to come free. Now, Keene is actually going to make TJ Guy miss with a quick little pump fake. It's going to get TJ Guy into the air. Bam. Makes a miss. TJ Guy jumps. He's past him. Now he's stepping up into a clean pocket. He's not going to take off because he'll be able to get him. But he's got a clean pocket here. Now, he knows that there's somebody behind him free here. So he's going to rush a little bit. He makes the right decision. He makes the right read on where to go with this ball. Again, it's just another little mesh concept, which we've talked about here. But as he lets go of it, you can already tell ball is really, really high. He just rushed everything. Technique was a little bit janky. He didn't have a solid platform. And the ball goes high, and it goes right into Makari Page's hands for the interception, okay? So you saw him be mature, deliver a dart on the previous play that we broke down. Here is kind of the opposite of that. Here, he panics a little under the pressure, doesn't set his feet, throws the interception. So, now that we're done with the film breakdown for Mikey Keene, we're going to go ahead and move on to Bryce Underwood. Now, I will circle back to Mikey Keene here at the end of this video, where I'm going to talk about who I think is going to start and why I think they're going to start. So, let's go ahead and move on and talk about Bryce Underwood. Now, I am going to break down his film from the spring game. That is what I'm going to do here in this section. That is not the only film that I have watched, okay? I have gained access to high school film for Bryce Underwood. Now, I will also say there's basically nothing that you can take away from high school film at any level. Whether you're playing at IMG or you're playing at a public high school like Bryce Underwood was playing. He played for Belleville, Michigan, okay? And I live in Michigan, so I know people in the coaching circles around here. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I have watched him relatively extensively at the high school level. Never live, because I can't bring myself to actually go to a high school football game that isn't my high school that I used to go to. Nevertheless, we are going to be breaking down a lot of his passes from the spring game here in this video in the next section after I do the preview, because there really would be no reason to break down the high school film other than base athletic traits. There's nothing that can be gained of value by looking at that film, in my opinion. So we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at the spring game. It's also worth noting Bryce Underwood had basically no college experience, okay, during the spring game. Didn't even have a full camp to practice yet, really. All of that is to say that this is really, really, really raw. So even though I am going to be a little bit negative here in his breakdown, because there are a lot more faults in his game than there is Mikey Keene, however, the positives of him and the potential of him very easily could outweigh the headaches that you're going to have from young quarterbacks. All right. So what are the pros here for Bryce Underwood? He has a great, not elite level of athleticism. Okay. What does that mean? Okay. Like, Justin Herbert is a great athlete. J.J. McCarthy is a great athlete. Okay. Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, those are elite athletes. Okay. Cam Newton, elite athlete. He's not in that tier, but he's pretty close. He's a great athlete. This is someone who is going to be a running threat at this level. And potentially, if he were to go to the NFL, he could absolutely be a threat in the run game at the NFL level as well. Arm strength right now at this moment in time, as I think a 17-year-old, I don't think he's turned 18 yet, is great by college standards. borderline elite. Now, you can increase your arm strength a little bit. He has not been through the Michigan, strength and conditioning program. So there's a possibility his arm could get a little bit stronger, and that would put him into the elite territory. Clearly has a mind for the game. And what do I mean by that? He clearly knows what's going on. He knows what he needs to do. It's just that right now he's just kind of a ball of clay. And the clay's not even wet. It's just sitting there on the thing that spins. All right. And you haven't even began to mold it yet. However, he does have good instincts when it comes to ball placement, as I will show in the spring game film. Okay. What are the negatives? All right. Again, I just want to reiterate this because this is going to be quite a bit more negative than the Mikey Keene section of this video. Okay. The negatives, the cons, so to speak. Happy feet. A lot of the times he just throws with his arm. Okay. And that is going to be a problem. He's a little bit antsy in the pocket, looks to bail quicker than he probably should. And again, that's something that young quarterbacks, especially athletic ones, do tend to have that problem. They can be reined in very easily. Michigan is, I think, going to have a pretty good offensive line this year, so I think that should be fine. I think there's a possibility that could get him into trouble a couple of times, per game. But again, not that big of a deal for somebody that's as good of an athlete as he is. Makes a lot of off-platform throws, okay? Does not set his feet a lot. And again, this is something that young quarterbacks do tend to have problems with, especially when they have the kind of arm talent and arm strength that Bryce Underwood has, okay? When you can zip the ball around like Bryce Underwood can zip the ball around, yeah, you can make off-platform throws. That's why you see Patrick Mahomes with his incredibly talented arm, and he's getting hit in the stomach and zipping the ball 30 yards down the field on a rope, okay? Or Josh Allen, who's running out to his left and contorts his body and throws it to his right. This is something that can be a positive, but over-reliance on that, especially young in your career, especially when you're a young quarterback, that can be quite a big problem, and that can get him into a lot of trouble as well. And then again, at the bottom of the screen, he does rely on his arm too much. He's at this stage of his career, which again, his career started 2 seconds ago, all right? But at this stage of his career, he is much more of a thrower rather than a passer right now, okay? That could change, should change, almost certainly will change as time goes forward. So let's go ahead and start the film breakdown section for Bryce Underwood with obviously plays from the spring game, as I stated earlier. But this is his second ever pass of the spring game. The first one was a screenplay that I think lost like 4 yards. Not a whole lot to break down there. But this play right here shows his inexperience. So once again, let's go ahead and start here with what you're looking at pre-snap. And right here, I've got 5 people on the line of scrimmage. That means, hypothetically, one of them is going to drop, or they're all going to go, and I'm going to have pressure. Running back is going to stay in and block. Tight end here, I think this is Klein, but I could be wrong. I'm not positive who this is. He is going to come in here and run a little in-breaking route. The slot receiver is going to come forward and run a clear-out route, and the outside receiver is just going to run a quick little hitch like this. The outside receiver is going to be the player that Bryce Underwood is going to throw to on, again, this little hitch route right into here. But that is not the correct decision, okay? So who are you going to look at on this play here to get, is this going to be man or zone? And you're going to look at the outside corner here. Again, these are all new faces. I don't know everybody's names. I'll call them out if I do know their names, but I'm not sure what everybody is and who's going. We saw like 100 players in this game. I'm not going to know everybody. But this is the corner here. And where is he looking? You can tell with his eyes. He's staring right at me. So this is zone coverage. Okay. And Bryce Underwood is not at that phase of his development where he is identifying whether it is man or zone pre-snap. All he looks at is him and says, oh, I've got, 7 yards of buffer between these two guys, and I can use my extraordinarily strong arm to rocket this ball in here before the corner can come forward and react. But what he misses is one of the Metcalf brothers. I don't know if this is Tevis or TJ, or I think those are their names. One of the Metcalf brothers, who looked really good in the slot, by the way. He is also playing zone coverage. You can kind of tell he's looking into the backfield as well. And what's going to happen is that this is going to be cover 3 effectively, meaning that this DB is going to cover this third of the field right here, except that's not right. He's going to cover like this bit of the field and all the way back, all the way to the goal line. That's his job. Austin Metcalf is going to cover what we call the curl, which is that area where the ball is going to be thrown, and the flat, which is right here. So effectively, Metcalf is going to cover this bit, and the DB is going to cover the rest of this in a cover 3 sort of play. And Bryce Underwood knows what cover 3 is, but he is not prepared for what is going to happen here. Largely, I think, due to the speed of the game. In high school, he can probably get away with throwing this, even if the linebacker does make a correct read. But now we're going to go ahead and play the snap here. And you can see right at the snap, Metcalf here is doing what he's meant to be doing. He is glancing at the receiver here, see what he's going to do. If he runs an out route, I got to get over there if it's a different kind of concept, but that's not what the play is. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Bryce Underwood has already figured out who he's going to throw the ball to. He's looking, I believe that's Andrew Marsh up there at the top, that he's going to try to fire this ball into. You see here, throws it. Not a whole lot to break down technique-wise. It's actually pretty good. Base is maybe a little bit wide, but when you can rocket the ball like he can rocket, I'm not going to nitpick you a whole bunch. And then you go over here and you see Metcalf. He's going to pass off this receiver because he goes out of his zone, and he's going to jump into this route right here. And this is what Bryce Underwood missed. Metcalf is going to come in here. He was maybe a tad bit late breaking there, couldn't get there first, but this very easily could have been an interception, and you obviously would not like that to happen, okay? The play didn't go on long enough for me to say what the correct read in this situation would have been, because he just rocketed the ball in there, but I don't believe that was the correct read, pretty obviously. Now, Metcalf made a good play. I'm not taking anything away from Metcalf here, number 7. But that one was on Bryce Underwood more than it was Metcalf making a good play. That ball shouldn't have been thrown there. This play I'm breaking down mainly just because I think what Michigan did defensively is actually really cool. But let's start with the offense. Again, Bryce Underwood's going to be ready to snap the ball here. But as you can look at the defensive line, again, I've got 6 people crowding the line of scrimmage. Who's going to come? Who's going to drop? You can pretty safely assume that they're going to drop at least one person in this scenario. And if they go 6, you do have to have your hot read ready. But that is not what happened here on this play. And then you go to the second level here. Where's he looking? He's looking right at me. Where he's actually communicating, but he's going to be looking right at me. And this is, I think, Jair Hill down here at the bottom. He's also looking at me. Pretty obviously zone coverage. Now, as far as what Michigan's going to do defensively on this play, I'm going to spoil it here. These 4 players are going to rush. He is going to drop back in coverage and then notice that Bryce Underwood is rolling out. So he is then going to try to, go get Bryce Underwood as you're supposed to do. 23, even though he's going to creep forward upon the snap here, at least I think that's the number 23. He's going to creep forward on the snap, but then he's actually going to bail and play this little area here. He's responsible for this little area here. Defensively, they're actually going to blitz Jair Hill. They're going to do a corner blitz. Now, Michigan happens to be doing a rollout, so he's effectively irrelevant. But that means that Hillman, number 6, or at least Hillman was number 6 last year. I hope this is Hillman. He might not be. I don't know. He is then going to become responsible for this whole ass part of the field. And number 88, I believe this is Browder or something. He's a true freshman, big, tall, fast guy. He's going to be running a little drag route over here. They're running what is called in the system that I learned a flood concept. He's actually going to stay in here and block. I believe this is Andrew Marsh again. He's running a clear out route, and Chelsea High School football legend Joe Taylor is going to be running a little deep out route here. And the idea is to put this DB in a cover 3 in a bind, where he has to keep going deep to cover the clear out route, and then Joe Taylor is going to come in here, and there's going to be all this open space in here. However, Michigan is in the perfect defense to counter this. And what you're going to see here is every single player is going to be covered as we start it here. Let it run for a minute. Bryce Underwood's going to clap, snap the ball. You can see Jair Hill blitzes off the edge over here. Evan Link, that's not his fault. Also, it's not important if he's going to be able to do this. It doesn't matter particularly. Also, you can't really anticipate the corner blitzing. It's very hard if it's not called out pre-snap. But you got Browder coming over here, Joe Taylor going to here, and Marsh going deep. And what you're going to see here, pretty decent blocking, but again, this is a rollout. This linebacker right here is going to try to come forward, and he is going to block him. But, as I stated earlier, everything's going to be covered here in this play because he is now covering here, which means that my defensive back here can get depth without having to worry about all this space in front of him because 23 or 29 or whatever his number is going to be down here covering the flat, which takes away Joe Taylor. The clear out route is obviously covered, and this is covered too. This is just a really, really good defensive play call by whoever was calling plays. I don't think it was Wink Martindale. He's going to zip it in. I believe this is actually his first completion of the day, and he's going to get 3 yards. So he didn't force it. He also didn't take off and run when he didn't really have a running lane either. So that was a pretty good play by Bryce Underwood. Took what the defense gave him, which was basically nothing. So this play right here shows a little bit of the positives of Bryce Underwood, the physical talent, the arm strength, everything here. Now, I know that this is, post-snap here, but there really is no way I could go backwards. The video that I have just kind of started it like this. So for the pre-snap read, even though this is like a third of a second after the snap, here, I'm getting a little bit of mixed signals, I should say. These two players look like they're playing man, the two DBs at the top, whereas he and these two guys down here look like they're playing zone. Now, it could be a combo coverage. Absolutely could be. I do think that this is the tight end, Klein, who they're thinking is probably the main target on this play. Because Michigan loves tight ends, and obviously Michigan would know that because they're Michigan. Anyway, they're going to actually double-team Klein here on this play. So what Michigan is running is just a simple little vertical concept here. He's going to run across the field. He's going to go out here, run a little out route. And I believe this is 14, which I think is Godwin, who I think is a redshirt freshman, very athletic young player. He is actually going to get the ball right around over there. And you can see here as I start the play, Bryce Underwood is already kind of looking out there. Now, he might be looking at Klein. You can make the argument he's looking at Klein. But then he's got to come off of it and notice that Godwin is got a bunch of space between him and the DB. The DB is playing overly deep here. This guy, whoever he is, he's playing, well, maybe not overly deep, but he's playing very deep, which means that his little stop route here is going to be able to work pretty well and get open. As you can see, Klein's getting double teamed. Bryce Underwood getting ready to throw. He is getting a little bit of pressure here. Not enough to affect him, but because it's a pretty clean pocket. This is a pretty solid pocket right here by the offensive line. Doing a good job. They're double teaming. I think that's Benny, and everybody else is winning their one-on-ones. So, come over here. Bryce Underwood's going to zip the ball. You can't really see it because the quality is not great. But it's a tight spiral, and it goes. It moves. It is an absolute laser directly into Godwin's hands, and really, really, really talented arm. That's a relatively, a high-intensity throw. To be able to get that there, you got to put some mustard on it. And that is an example of the arm talent from Bryce Underwood. So this play right here is going to show something that a lot of older quarterbacks that Bryce Underwood struggle with, but that Bryce Underwood, at least pretty consistently throughout this film here, did not struggle with, okay? And that is ball placement on risky throws. Generally speaking, he's very, very good at that, and you can tell that even through an exhibition kind of film like this, that his ball placement is beyond his years, that he does understand where to throw the football. So on this play right here, Bryce Underwood is going to come down here. It's going to be a hard play action to the running back. He's then is going to boot and run off. The actual play concept here, this guy's going to run a little deep little post route, and it's going to occupy both of those safeties. Actually not that safety, but he's going to occupy two players. Then this receiver over here is going to run a little drag route across the field. The tight end is going to act like this is a run play, and he's trying to work to the second level here to block this tight end. But then he's going to come up here, try to block the tight end, but then he's going to boot out here. And the idea is to get him wide open. Nice, easy throw for 8, 9, 10 yards, maybe more. And kind of the last resort on this option here is, I believe this is Moore here, who's going to be running a little route down the field here, a little comebacker route, potentially. But the progression in this play is going to go tight end 1, drag route 2, him 3. You can tell, if he's not covered, then he's probably not covered either. Or covered, sorry. If this receiver on the drag is covered, he's also probably covered because they're playing zone instead of man. Anyway, the last option would then be to go to the wide receiver over here. And what's going to happen is, as I let the play run here, everybody's going to be covered. That's what's going to happen. Defensively, they're doing what they're doing their things. As you can see, it's a hard play action run. Tight end right here, faking like he's blocking. Now he's trying to get leverage. Now this linebacker actually does a very good job on this play. He recognizes, even though he really shouldn't be able to, but he recognizes that this is a pass play right now. It's probably the depth of the linemen and the fact that they're not getting depth that alerted him. But this is an excellent read by him. So we're going to let this run here. It looks like 42 might be open a little bit, the tight end. It's not there. Underwood has got a little bit of space, so let's go here. Covered. Down here, covered. You can't see it because it's out of your screen. Wide receiver over here in the end zone running the post route. Covered. His only option is to throw the one-on-one ball to Moore. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to throw it. He's going to say, hey, this ball is on a line, and it's probably traveling like 30 yards or so, and he guns it in there. Just, you can tell the arm strength. It just pops off the screen when you're watching him. But you can see, where is the ball? The ball is, you could argue that it's a couple yards too far to the sideline for Moore to be able to catch it, which is true. But if he is going to miss, you would rather have him miss out of bounds rather than inbounds, because hypothetically the corner is going to be trailing behind him to the sideline. So if you throw it infield, the corner is going to have the ability to come and cut it off and potentially make a play on the ball, pick it off. It doesn't matter. But he leaves it. I think the ball is in his outstretched down. He leaves it too far to the outside, which it's 1st and 10, tie ball game. You're already in field goal range. This is not the time to take the gamble. This is the time to, hey, if I can throw it perfectly, if the wide receiver can make a great catch, let's get into, inside the 5 here. But that isn't what happened. Moore ends up not being able to make the catch because it was too far outside. But knowing where to throw it and knowing not to gamble is very good signs for him and his maturity level as a quarterback right now. So this next play here was actually a really, really good play call. And the reason for that is based off of the defense that they're running here. So they're in nickel, which is 2 linebackers, 4 defensive linemen, and 5 defensive backs. You can't see the 5th one. He's behind the M over here. So that's, 4-2-5 nickel personnel. Anyway, based off of this and the fact that they've got 2 deep safeties here, they're probably running either cover 4 or cover 2. And that means, again, you can look at the indicators. He's looking in here. He's looking in here. Pretty obviously zoned. But Bryce Underwood is not at that point in his development where he is worried about, or the Michigan staff is worried about him identifying that pre-snap, okay? Which is fine. It's whatever. I probably would teach him that. That'd be like the first thing that I would do. But there are different philosophies. Anyway, this play design right here, the bottom of the screen is completely irrelevant. This play design right here, you're going to have, again, I think this is Andrew Marsh. He's going to run a little clear out route. And number 42, the tight end, he's going to run a little out route. And it's going to put this linebacker in an incredible bind because he's effectively in a lose-lose situation, which I'll explain more as I let the play run. So again, Bryce Underwood's going to snap the ball. You see number 42 get out of his stance. Andrew Marsh is running his little clear out route here. Now you see him. He is running his route. Number 20, I think it's number 23. He is in a lose-lose situation. Now, because of leverage, even if he full bore commits to try to get to the number 42 here, the tight end, he ain't going to get there. Bryce Underwood's going to zip this ball in there. Now, whether or not it's a first down, because I forgot to mention at the start, it is 3rd and 8 on this play. So this play is designed to get 8 yards. They're going to get a little bit more than that, but this is designed to get 8 yards. So effectively, if they were in cover 3, which is what you should be running if you're going to go nickel personnel, you should probably be running cover 3. If you go dime, you can run cover 4 because then you have another DB that is quicker and more versatile. You can do things. Anyway, there is no extra defender to cover the curl to flat area where he is running his route. This is a really good play call, understanding the situation. Again, I don't know who's calling plays, but Bryce Underwood's going to zip it through, catch the ball. He's going to walk for a first down. Very good play design. Very good execution. He didn't hold on to the ball too long. Saw it was breaking open. Not as it was open. You can see he's open now. He's already thrown the ball. You go before. Again, I'll let it run here. When does he start throwing the ball? Boom, right now. As he's making his breakout. Now I'm throwing the ball. It's a good timing, good throwing, good location that allows him to turn up the field with ease. catches the ball, runs up the field, first down, keep the chains going. Good stuff all around here on this play. Now, this play here is more about the decision making than anything else when it comes to Bryce Underwood here. And I'm going to end up letting this go here. But what is the play design here at the bottom of the screen? It's going to be a double fade here. Both of these guys are going to run fades. They're not particularly relevant. The action is to the top of the screen here. Now, pre-snap, it looks like it's going to be man-to-man. And that's what it is going to be. It is going to be man-to-man with a single free safety here in the middle of the field. Right. Up here at the top of the screen, Chelsea High School football legend Joe Taylor. He's going to run a little slant in-breaking route. Again, I think this is Godwin, number 14. He's going to run a little inside route that he's then going to actually level off and get vertical because he beats the DB so bad. This is something that I do gripe with a little bit. And he's a young quarterback. I get it. Young quarterbacks often predetermine where they're going to go with the ball. Now, if we slow this down here and we go back a little bit, take it frame by frame, you can see here, where is he looking? He's actually looking over here, okay? So he's looking off the free safety here, or at least that's the idea. But he's always going to throw it right here to the slot. And, hypothetically, you do want him to do that. You want him to look off over here and then come back to this side of the field where the actual action is. But you would hope that he'd be able to look over here and see who's winning and who's going to win and anticipate what's going to happen over on this side of the field. Because as he comes back to the middle of the field, you see here he's already thrown the ball. But, again, Chelsea High School football legend Joe Taylor, right here. He is open because of the leverage with his body. Now, you also have this backer right here and the free safety coming over here. Now, right here you can see Godwin, if he's even, he's leaving, all right? I think he almost certainly should have thrown it up here. But the throw is actually quite good. He's going to put it in an area that is high enough to get over the backer, away from this DB, so that hypothetically Joe Taylor can go up here and catch this. Now, no disrespect to Chelsea High School football legend Joe Taylor, all right, but he's like the 7th string wide receiver. So if this was, maybe somebody who was a little bit taller or better, they probably come down with this. But I do quibble a little bit, given how absolutely wide open Godwin would be if he kept running his route here, with the decision to kind of force the ball into here. Again, not the end of the world for a young quarterback. The ball placement was excellent, okay? It wasn't perfect. It would have been perfect if it was another 2 inches down and in, okay? But it's perfectly good enough. Joe Taylor did get 2 hands on the ball. Should have caught it. Again, a wide receiver who isn't 5'7" maybe stands a better chance of catching the pass. So this play right here is a good example of predetermining where you're going to throw the ball and why that is a bad idea, okay? Now, this play is kind of a mess. I don't really know what's going on here at the bottom of the screen with Andrew Marsh. I don't know what route he's supposed to run because he just gets blown up by the DB here. But you're going to see a vertical release from him, and you're going to see a vertical release from Godwin in the slot here. Again, 14, I think that's Godwin. And then you're going to see the tight ends come in here and run a little dig route. And that is the play side action. That is what is going on. So as I let this run here, this is the interception if you don't recognize the play. Bryce Underwood's going to throw an interception here. All right. He's just staring down the wide receiver. But first big mistake that he makes here as we back up a little bit. This is a clean pocket. Look at this. They're all here. He's got time. He doesn't need to move. Why is he moving? He's going to run into pressure here on this play, which in the high school film, he also did quite a bit. But you see, he's going to come over here, and he runs into the pressure, realizes, oh shit, he's going to tackle me if I try to go this way. So now I got to chuck it. And since he already predetermined in his head where he's going to throw the ball, he's going to gun it down the seam to Godwin. You can't see it. It's off the screen, but I can see his foot right over here. But look at how wide open 42, the tight end, is. He's wide open. This is 3rd and 18, and you've got a walk-in first down, most likely. If not, you're going to be in 4th and short. Field goal range with Zavada if this was in a real game. And also just a pretty good shot just to get the first down. But he's already figured out where he's going to throw the ball. And then B, as he's throwing the ball, look at him here. Way too spread apart. He's actually, as I play, he's actually going to jump into the air a little bit. Like, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what that is. I don't know why he's running it. And you can see Marsh is down here. I don't know what he's doing. Godwin is right here. He stopped running right about over here. I don't know what he's doing either. But this is not a good decision. He can't throw this ball. You cannot be a starting quarterback at the college level and throw this ball here. You've got to either run, try to extend the play, or ideally understand, based the coverage that the defense is running, that the tight end is going to be open on the dig route. Instead, he throws it into coverage, and I think 24 is the other Metcalf twin, TJ or Tevis. Again, I'm not sure which one is which. He's going to pick this off and run it back. There's just... I don't really know why he decided to run when he didn't need to. He had a clean pocket. He had time. And then he ran into the pressure and panicked. And that is not ideal. That is the exact opposite of what you want to happen, actually. So that is something that they're going to have to work with him on. Because he is a little bit skittish in the pocket at times. He wants to get out of there. He wants to feel like, oh, I'm running around, I'm being an athlete. He doesn't want to stick into the pocket and be a passer sometimes. Most of the times he does, because he doesn't look to run as much as someone with his kind of athleticism probably should. But a lot of the time, he just kind of gets skittish. He's like, oh, I don't trust myself to look through the progression to find the open receiver, or my first guy isn't open, so now I don't know what to do. So even if I have a clean pocket, I need to go run around and be an athlete. And that is an instinct that they're going to have to train out of him pretty quickly if he's going to play. Which, again, I want to emphasize this as much as I can. Bryce Underwood was in high school like 2 seconds before this spring game started, all right? He has barely begun to develop. There's a very real possibility he's a completely different player by the time August rolls around and we're playing the first game of the season. This play, I'm going to talk about real quickly because flat out and straight up, sometimes it's just not the quarterback's fault. Here on this play, you're going to see number 88. Again, I think his name is Jamar Browder. He's going to run a little fade route here, and he's going to get open. And Bryce Underwood's going to put the ball exactly where it needs to be. And Browder just isn't going to make the catch. You know, obviously two young players here, Underwood throwing it. Don't love that he's fading to the side as he's throwing it, but the ball's very accurate, so I'm not going to knock him. And you look at that, again, you can't really tell because of the quality, but the ball, he's got two hands on it, and the ball bounces off his hands. That you would expect your receivers to be able to make these kind of catches. And again, very young player. I'm not knocking him. This is spring game. It doesn't matter all that much. And I'm pretty sure they score on this drive anyway. This is first down and goal. They got 3 other cracks at it. Who knows what's going to happen? But I just want to say that he probably should have had a touchdown pass here on like the stat book, so to speak. And this was, again, excellent ball placement, which has been a theme. There were 1 or 2 plays where the ball placement wasn't great, but overall, the ball placement has been excellent for Bryce Underwood. This is the final play that we're going to break down for Bryce Underwood, and unfortunately, we are going to have to end on a bit of a negative note. Here, this is flat out and straight up. This is just a shot play. Everybody's going deep, all the wide receivers. And as I start the play here, I'm going to pause it a couple of times as the play is going here. Bryce Underwood's going to have really good protection here. They're going to bring an extra guy, and it's going to get all muddled up in here, and you can see it's all muddled. This is a good pocket, all right? So he gets to his depth, and he stops. That's good, all right? But then we come down here. We're going to play it again. Now he's going to step up. Okay, I'm fine with the one. I'm fine with the one step. Now you buzz your feet, or you set your feet and you make the throw. That's not what he does. You're going to see here he's going to keep drifting forward another 2 steps, and then also, again, he's going to do his little, look at his base when he's throwing the ball. This is all arm, okay? And he's got an excellent arm. But when you throw with just your arm, I call that throwing. And when you throw with your whole body, I call that passing, okay? And there is a difference, all right? So right now, he's a thrower rather than a passer. And also, he's going to do this thing again. I don't know why he jumps, but he jumps. Both his feet are off the ground as I pause this. He's just jumping the ball. Or he's jumping as he's throwing the ball. I don't know why. This is something that they're going to have to address, okay? But he's going to have a wide open receiver for a touchdown on this play as we let it go. He's actually going to have 2. This is got him. And he just Hail Marys it. He throws it way too far. This ball lands, 3-4 yards out of the back of the end zone, where he should have probably put it somewhere in this range right there. And that is an error of like 5, 6, 7 yards. And it's almost certainly because he didn't set his feet and throw the ball like a normal person instead of jumping in the air. And I just want to say this again. I think it's kind of funny, the fact that he has to jump for some reason. But that's something that they're going to have to work on. They're going to have to work on his technique and his footwork and everything. Now, you do that with all young quarterbacks, okay? And when he can learn that, he's going to be fantastic, okay? So he has all the physical tools, everything that you want, an absolute cannon of an arm. He's just unrefined right now. And I think Michigan is going to be able to coach him up. And he's going to be really good, in my opinion. But you're not just going to get my opinion. You're also going to get the opinion of a coach that coached against Bryce Underwood several times over Bryce Underwood's career at Belleville High School. Now, that friend that I am talking about right now is not going to be named, but let's go over some of his credentials here, okay? His first credential is that he coached against Bryce Underwood, I believe 3 times, multiple times, including being part of the staff that handed Bryce Underwood his first ever loss as a starting quarterback. Bryce Underwood was a 4-year starter at Belleville, if I am not mistaken. He also has almost a decade of experience as a quarterback coach / offensive coordinator / primary play caller at the high school level. So he can kind of speak on what a high school quarterback in the state of Michigan looks like, and also what it was like playing against him and game planning for him. So we're going to kind of get both sides of the aisle here. I did also ask him what he would try to do based off of Bryce Underwood's strengths as a player. If he was coaching Bryce Underwood, what would he try the offense to be? What would it be schematically? And, what kind of plays would he run, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go ahead and get into this breakdown now. So as he was looking at the film for Bryce Underwood, because he went back through his own film. Again, he was part of a staff, so he has his own film. in order to look at Bryce Underwood over the course of really almost his whole career. He noticed a lot of the same things that I noticed in my breakdown, which was skittish in the pocket. He was a willing and powerful runner, especially later in his career. Although he did also say that sometimes he tries to get a little cute. I think that's likely because he grew like 7 inches from his freshman year to his senior year. So as a young player, he was kind of that smaller, shifty guy, and then as an old player, he was just like a 6'4", 230-pound quarterback that could just run through people. So I think that might just be like a little mental thing with him that will probably just change with time as he gets older, where he'll become more of a power runner than a finesse runner, so to speak, more of a Cam Newton or a Josh Allen as opposed to a Lamar Jackson or Jaden Davis. This is actually the next point here that I have at the bottom of the screen. This is actually something that maybe he's gotten worse at. He said pretty confidently that he navigated the pocket well. He also said that he did kind of take off early a lot of the times, which is something that I noted in my film breakdown and in my film analysis as well, that he does kind of bail a little bit early a lot of the times. In fact, what they ended up doing to him was playing man coverage and just blitzing the hell out of him, and he kind of didn't know how to react to that because he wasn't anticipating pressure coming in quick, and then he would look at his receivers since the pressure was coming in so quick. They were still, being covered by the corners. And he's like, "Uh-oh, nobody's open." So that was something that he specifically pointed out to me that was part of their game plan, was to play man coverage and blitz him. And again, it worked. So they handed him a loss in his first ever loss. So it did kind of work. Now, I think that was his sophomore year, if I'm not mistaken. But it is still worth noting. He also talked about how he was pretty good at recognizing when the linebackers got too deep in their coverage. So he would just kind of take off, and a lot of times he was, bigger, stronger, faster than everybody else on the field. So he could do a lot of damage like that, which is good. Again, I didn't talk about him as a runner at all in my film breakdown because we were talking about passing the ball, and that was really what's more important at the quarterback position, in my opinion. It's, the ability to throw the ball, unless you're going to, be a triple option team or a very quarterback run heavy team as well. But in which case, I would still probably say that passing the ball is still slightly more important if you were just like a team that's going to run the quarterback a lot, as opposed to like a triple option team. Then running the ball is the only important thing, really. But Michigan isn't a triple option team, and I don't think they're going to be a heavy quarterback run team either. So, little tangent here, not that important. But he is, as I've stated countless times now in this video, a tremendous athlete. He is someone that's going to be part of the run game. He didn't think he had home run sort of potential. He's like, he's not going to be a guy to go 80 yards. I kind of slightly disagree with that. I think he is someone that is going to be able to break off some long runs. Now, one trait that he noticed from the high school film is that he, likely because he was coached to do this, threw to a spot on the field rather than his receivers. Now, when I was, playing football in high school and shit, this was also something that our quarterbacks were taught. You throw to a spot and the receiver has to get to the spot. You don't throw to where the receiver is. And I thought it was dumb in high school, and I think it's dumb now. Okay? There should be a general, sort of idea of where the receiver is going to be because you're going to run the route there. Okay? You teach the wide receivers to get to a spot. You don't teach the quarterback to throw to a spot. That is bad practice, in my opinion. And as I noted a couple of times in the film breakdown, I actually don't think that's a problem right now. Now, I kind of jokingly said in the video as well that he was in high school like 2 seconds ago. But he has gone through, I think, 3 weeks of practices before the spring game. So that is a lot. Okay. So I do think he's gotten a little bit better from even his senior year tape that I was actually able to watch a little bit of. Now, I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it, not nearly as much as my friend, but I do think that is a clear area of improvement, is the fact that he is more accurate now and throwing to where the receivers are, generally speaking. There were a couple of times where he missed throws, but he wasn't trying to throw to a spot in those throws than he was in high school. So he's, I think, improved a little bit in that area. Now, I think the most interesting part of his breakdown that he gave me was his opinion on Belleville's scheme, which he said that the offense was very, very scripted and very, very simple. Even later going on saying that they did him no favors, and also that he was not particularly coached well, which I would also agree with, even though Belleville, is a big public high school. It's a public high school. I think there's a definitive possibility that Bryce Underwood is a little bit behind a lot of his peers that went to like these big Catholic schools or to like IMG that are effectively, professional, get you ready to play college football type of places. So I do think that even though he's going to learn very quickly and he's going to pick up on things very, very quickly, I do think he is behind the 8 ball a little bit and not as far along as he could be. That is also the opinion of my friend here. He also said that the scheme was very much scripted to be like, okay, you're going to throw it to this player on this play. Okay, you're not going to read anything or try to do anything other than throw it to that guy. And it was a very vertical offense as well, so a lot of times he was just chucking it deep to receivers who were better athletes than everybody else and could run under the ball, which is something that I even noticed in the limited amount of high school film that I actually got my hands onto. Again, he pretty much also reiterated that he was not asked to read anything. He was effectively just waiting until the receivers broke on their routes and then throwing the ball to wherever the spot he was supposed to throw the ball to. So, not great coaching, but he also did notice that, obviously the arm pops on film. He's a very, very good athlete, can throw on the run well, moves outside of the pocket well, isn't necessarily just scrambling the second he gets out of the pocket, does keep his eyes downfield, which is not something I talked about, but it is something that he noticed. Because, again, this was also a spring game in the film that I was breaking down. So, not the end of the world, but they weren't going to call any runs for him. And they also weren't particularly going to allow him to scramble because, if you get anywhere near him, then you're just going to get the quick whistle of a practice session, which is effectively what the spring game was. Moving on to the mechanics, he did also notice the same thing that I did, which is he uses his arm and upper body way more than his legs. When he's moving around and running, he can make the off-platform throws, but it's, again, all with his arm right now. And again, he's got a fantastic, great arm, but when you only throw with your arm, you are not very accurate typically. So he's going to have to learn how to throw with his feet and his hips and his legs and everything, all right? He's going to have to learn to use his lower body when throwing. And I don't have a lot of reason to believe that this isn't going to improve just naturally over time, especially with the level of coaching I expect him to get at the University of Michigan. He also said that it was worth noting that his upper arm mechanics were actually pretty good. Like the way he throws the ball, his release, and the route that his arm takes while throwing were all pretty good, just kind of naturally. The final thing that he said, sort of as a conclusion, was he was shocked by how little help he had. He talked about how they were often starting many possessions at 1st and 15 or 1st and 10 because there was a holding or a false start penalty. He talked about how the wide receivers were effectively just running around and not really running routes or anything. They did not look like, in his own words, they did not look like they had any idea what was going on. He said the running back was lazy and didn't pass protect very well. He also went as far as to say that he effectively was not coached the later part of his career, and said that Bryce Underwood effectively had to be Superman in tough games for Belleville to win, which he did very effectively. I believe he won 2 state championships, maybe 3. I know he didn't win one his senior year, but he was very good player in the state of Michigan. I believe he's a 2-time state of Michigan football player of the year. He also moved on to say, when I asked him this as a follow-up, he said that he believes Bryce Underwood's best fit would be a system that operates on quick reads, moving out of the pocket, so a lot of bootlegs, a lot of designed rollouts, and a relatively simple offense to begin with. Now, the good news is that's pretty much exactly what Chip Lindsey does. Now, Chip Lindsey doesn't move the quarterback a whole lot, but his scheme is, RPO. It's a lot of play action and a lot of simple reads. He is not going to be asked to do a whole lot. However, it's not going to be limiting either. Okay, so he will see NFL route concepts. He will have to make NFL throws, again, which he has the arm to do. But he thinks that early on in his career, he will likely have to have a very simple and simplified offensive scheme where you're maybe only asking him to do one read, or you're just, again, going to get him on a rollout where it's pretty simple. You're going to go through a progression and you go to first guy, second guy, third guy, see who's open. If nobody's open, run. I think that's likely going to be the case for him early on in his career. So, who do I think is the starter heading into the season? Okay. Well, the first thing I want to do is talk about Jaden Davis. He's not here. I haven't talked about him at all. And he's not getting a film breakdown or anything because flat out and straight up, he is not competing to be the starter of this football team. Period. It will either be Mikey Keene or Bryce Underwood. There is no upside to playing Jaden Davis over Bryce Underwood. So if Keene goes down, it will be Bryce Underwood. Or if Bryce Underwood goes down and he's the starter, it's going to be Mikey Keene coming off that bench. And also, to be honest with you, if Davis Warren was healthy and didn't tear his ACL in the bowl game, Davis Warren is probably QB3 over Davis as well. So even though we do have spring game film of Jaden Davis, I'm not going to be talking about him or adding him in this video because he just straight up, flat out and straight up, just isn't competing to be the starting quarterback. He's competing to get better. He's competing for the starting spot at a different school whenever he transfers, but he's not competing for the starting quarterback position at the University of Michigan. It's just not going to happen. So, Mikey Keene, Bryce Underwood, who is going to start? Okay, obviously there's a lot of upside with Bryce Underwood, a hell of a lot more upside than Bryce Underwood. Bryce Underwood only has to hit like 40% of his potential to be a better quarterback than Mikey Keene. Mikey Keene is someone that has played a lot of football, but that also comes with a lot of baggage because he does throw a lot of interceptions. I know in his breakdown I said that a lot of those interceptions were unlucky, but also if you are consistently unlucky, then you're just unlucky. And if you're going to throw 10 to 12 interceptions in a year and you're not putting up 30, 35, 40 touchdowns, which Mikey Keene is not going to do, I don't see much of a reason for you to start, especially when you have this mega ultra talented guy coming behind you. However, on the flip side of that, based off of what I've seen from high school and knowing his background, and also the spring game, which isn't the end all be all, okay? Because he's going to get better over the course of the summer and in fall camp. And maybe he just flat out and straight up becomes as good as he's going to become this year before the season starts. But Bryce Underwood is not ready to play right now, flat out and straight up. Based off of what I've seen in the spring game, which again, it's an exposition. You don't know what it's going to look like. He didn't have his top wide receivers. He only had, I believe he had the starting tackles, but then the backup guard, center guard. So he didn't have the full offense. He also didn't have the full allotment of running backs. I believe he had Justice Hayes, but he didn't have Marshall or potentially Capuana, who is likely to be the RB3, which we'll talk about on Wednesday. But flat out and straight up, I do not think he is ready to play right now. I think there will come a point in the season where he probably should be playing. But to begin the season, I do think Mikey Keene is going to be the starter. And I also think if Mikey Keene had been healthy to play the spring game, this wouldn't be much of a conversation. I just think the experience, the ability to be able to even make simple reads, which is not something we can say about Bryce Underwood. Again, even though I wouldn't expect or ask Mikey Keene to make like full field reads and to go through 2 or 3 reads and then pick a receiver and throw it to him. But he has shown the ability to make reads, which is not something that Bryce Underwood has shown. And again, Chip Linsley isn't going to particularly ask him to do a whole lot of that. It'll probably just be simple reads or quick passes you're going to throw it to this guy because I know what the defense is going to run, and he's just via leverage going to be open, so you're going to get the ball out quick, and we're going to get yards. That is something that I think he is going to excel in. Also worth noting, he started his career at UCF when Chip Linsley was also there. So I think there's a good possibility that he's pretty much already got the scheme down, and he's going to be able to make sure everybody's in the right spot and they know what route to run and be a leader and get everybody going. I just think, at least at the beginning of the season, it's probably going to be Mikey Keene. I do think there's a very definitive possibility because I'm not predicting anything at the moment, but I will at the end of this series do a season prediction for Michigan. Okay, but I think there's a very real possibility they start the season 2-2. They go on the road at Oklahoma, and then they go on the road at Nebraska to a much improved Nebraska team that I think is going to be good this year, and without Sharon Moore in that game. So I think there's a real possibility they start the season 2-2. And even though that's probably not going to be Mikey Keene's fault, I think at that point you do kind of have to make the switch to go with Bryce Underwood at that point. Unless he's playing really good. He threw 300 yards in the Nebraska game and they just lost because the defense shit the bed or something, okay? So even if that happens, you might still just want to go to Bryce Underwood at some point later on in the season so that he can get some real game experience under his belt for next year, which should be the year, just roster-wise, that this team can really take a step towards competing for a national title. This year, probably not so much. This year, I think they're going to compete for a playoff spot, but I'm not sure that they're going to be a national title kind of team. So in conclusion, with the film breakdown and everything, I believe Mikey Keene is, at least at the beginning of the season, your starting quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines. But what do I know? After all, I'm just some asshole on the internet giving you his opinion. So at this point, I'm going to remind you to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and if you disagree with me at any point, or if you just have something to say, go ahead and drop a comment down in the comment section below. And now with the outro done and out of the way, there's only one thing left to say, and that's that I'll see you next time.